September 11, 2001 was one of the worst days in history for North America. But there's a story that perhaps you haven't heard that reminds us that even on our worst days, generosity has the power to open up our world. It was the morning of September 11, and the passengers of Delta Flight 15 were told they would be diverting from Atlanta because of a simple instrument problem. Their new destination was to be Gander, a small town in Newfoundland, Canada. Then, as 52 other aircraft joined them, one by one on the tarmac, there was no denying the fact that the captain had lied to keep them calm. While the world reeled with images of tumbling office towers, the frightened passengers huddled overnight in the cabin, wondering what would happen next. The next day, all 10,500 disoriented passengers disembarked, and another 10,000 unsuspecting townspeople lurched into action. Look what happened next. The volunteer army gathered. They organised buses for transport. They set up accommodation in high schools and meeting halls. They mobilised the restaurants for food. They offered medical attention. They even opened the laundromats for washing. Some of them even provided day excursions. And for the next 3 days, they looked after the people of Delta 15 and all the other 52 flights. And it was an amazing act of care and provision. 3 days later, when the passengers of Delta 15 got back on their plane to go home, they were changed. Attendants said it was more like a party flight than a rescue mission. People were using each other's names and they were swapping phone numbers and exchanging stories. And then, just before they took off, someone made an announcement from the cabin. In response to the generosity of the townspeople, they were to start a trust fund for the high school students to go to college. They did a quick whip around of an offering and they raised $14,000. It's an incredible story, an act of generosity from hundreds of people. There's an ancient proverb that's written in the Bible, and it says that the world of the generous gets larger and larger. And we see that in this story. We see that the people's hearts were changed while everyone was reeling and panicking from some of the events that had taken place. This group of people were beautifully looked after, and the camaraderie and the blessing that flowed was obvious. You know, as they raised that trust fund, today it numbers 1.5 million. They have sponsored 130 students for their college education. What a beautiful principle. You see, God calls us to be generous, even on our very worst days. God calls us to look beyond ourselves, to surrender our agendas, to mobilize the resources that we have, even when it's difficult. See, when hard times hit, often we shrink back, we withdraw. But there's another part to that proverb. It also says that the world of the stingy gets smaller. We can give even on our worst day because generosity is an attitude of the heart. It's learning to make a choice to look out for others, to share what we have, perhaps something as simple as a kind word or an open door or a compliment or a gesture that thinks about others. We learn that even when we're suffering, even when we're in pain, even when we're facing panic, when we make a choice to give to other people, then our world becomes bigger. We make room for blessing. We don't give to get back, but what we see is a natural consequence of generosity is that blessing flows through us to other people. And as that happens, it also flows back. It may be challenging to give when we don't feel like it, but this is when we need generosity the most. We can give because giving is an attitude. No matter what we have, we can open our hearts and share what's inside. The people of Gander have shown us that the world will always be better for it. Hey, thanks for tuning in to Everyday God Conversations today. For more on having your own God conversation, go to godconversations.com.